you're just logging on. That's very good. So we're going to give it a minute or two, and then we're going to go live with Michael. Stand by, everybody.
From midnight in Australia to what is it? Going to be 5 or 6.
5 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah.
Hi,
yes,
guys. Can you hear me all right?
Excellent. Hello, Michael. Nice to see you.
Hi. And you, John. What a pleasure to see you all. Congrats to you and to Rich for getting this going again. It's so good to have this convention actually going ahead. I couldn't believe 1,500 people as well. That's an amazing achievement.
Yeah, well, you've got 500 listening to you right now.
Oh, hi, guys.
It's amazing what happens. Amazing what happens when you offer free registration.
Yeah.
But
and some bribes, hey?
So we say to everybody, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are right now. Listen, the stage is yours. So take it away. We're going to go mute and stop our videos, and you can give us the latest and greatest. I see from your tagline, latest news, real-time uploads, satellites, and more. We can't wait. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, John. Thanks for the intro, and really big, I would like to say thanks to Steve as well, who's just done his fantastic presentation. I said in the comment, it's so nice to hear such an honest talk about how it is to figure it out, by going somewhere. So I really enjoyed that talk, and I hope I can entertain you with something about ClubLog as well. I've got quite a lot to get through today. And I think that before I start, I just want to sort of say again how nice it is to be amongst friends. I know a lot of you from the help desk or even from DXing and other passions that we all share in the hobby. Being here today is something I've looked forward to so much, and the opportunity is really welcome. So thanks for the invite. Let me get some slides going here for you. I've got some photos on the screen from back in 2011 when I was in the halls of the Holiday Inn with you all in Visalia. And back then, I guess ClubLog was pretty new. I started it in 2008, but like many projects, things like ClubLog start quite small. And I was fishing through my old slides from back then, which I still have, and see that we had 47 million QSOs in the database and 6,500 users. And there's some really cool photos there that made me laugh. Standing next to Tim with a bottle of beer. I think we all miss the attitude adjusters, right? It was great having those in-person meetings with the great and the good, and I really enjoyed Visalia. One of the best memories from all of ham radio for me is going there in person. So there's the numbers from 2011, 10 years ago, 47 million QSOs, 6,500 users. I thought it would be nice to show you where we're up to today. So I like to visualize it as more like a football stadium. Today, the number's 85,000 and 750 million QSOs. So we're up a factor of 16 in 10 years. And some important things as well, like, ClubLog, it's in the name. It was really intended to be a club system, and we've got 242 clubs around the world in ClubLog now, which I'm really pleased about. Loads of visitors every month, and loads of log uploads every year. So it's actively used. It's not just something you come and use once, it's something that you check in with. And it's something I'm really proud of. I've got to say, I never imagined that we would turn ClubLog into something so fundamental, so useful to everybody. And if you're one of those users, I'm really pleased for you, for me, for everybody. And I'll explain why. Let's also just reflect for a minute on something which is really important for ClubLog. And it will make more sense why ClubLog is useful if I explain this. If I give you a random call sign, or you give me one, we have to know where it is. What we can't do is just assume that all the prefixes are truthful and correct. And in fact, we have to use a lot of exceptions to handle call signs like the FO and TO prefixes, prefixes that changed country in the past. So Yeah, we've got the prefixes. There's 4,500 more or less, but there's also 26,000 exceptions now. I couldn't believe the growth of exceptions that was needed to attain accuracy. Remember that an exception is a call sign, but also the dates. And if you know the dates, then you can specify the same call in 2 different places in different years. That kind of thing happens a lot. And all of this has been done by Alan, 5B4AHJ. And you will know by now, I think, that the accuracy that he's obtained is quite remarkable. We really feel confident that we've done the best that can be done to map call signs correctly, all the way from post-World War II up to the current day. And of course, because of the way ClubLog is a community project, that data is free. Anyone can use it. We export a daily update in an XML file. And a lot of logging software loads that data when you load it up each day, which means that when you type a call sign in, you may see some surprises that may not have been in your brain, but the computer can tell you, actually, that's an interesting one, and give you the correct call. So really pleased about the DXCC research. I must say, Alan is the champion of this. So what can we do with that kind of data? And this is where I have to start sort of turning it around and saying, well, this is what you did with your data, because this is how it works. One of the things that we started doing and now defined for everybody is the most wanted list. Now, at the top level, you could say there's a wanted list for the whole world, and that's what I've got on this slide. But because it's computerized, we can also cut and dice the data any number of different ways. So you can choose any combination of which band, which mode, or which geographic area that you'd like to see a most wanted list for, which is actually hundreds of permutations. It's automatically built every month, and you don't have to fill anything in. There's no survey emails or anything else. We just do it with the logs that you upload. So you could take the global most wanted list, which we're pretty familiar with now, some frustrating ones on there for sure. But we can also take a more sort of precise look at it. And I've taken the example of Mount Athos, which is relatively easy to work in Europe. Sorry, guys, but actually, because it's so close, I know that we absolutely get in the way. If you're in the west coast of America, you know, there's always Europeans trying to call it, right? So you never get through. And we can see that in the data. On the left, I've done a most wanted list for the west coast of North America. Mount Athos is in position number 5, which is pretty high. And on the right-hand side, the British Isles down in position 43. And this kind of dramatically shows you the difference in analyzing data with geography in mind. So this is one of the things that your logs have made possible. None of this was done by reckoning or by guessing. It's entirely empirical from the data. The other thing we can do, I know this is controversial, is analyze which modes everybody's using. And this graph, which I circulated not long ago, is currently the story with FT8. And you can see the red line. And you can also see the decline of other modes, although not perhaps, let's be perfectly straightforward here. This is the proportion of the modes, so it doesn't show the absolute count of the modes. And it turns out that they are all going up, which is good news. So FT8 is a complicated story. But again, the point here is ClubLog can give you this data. It's not data that you can find anywhere else. The other thing I like to do, is kind of my passion, is let's not assume that raw data makes any sense to anybody. What you need about data is to visualize it. And so I take great care to turn trends into graphs. And in the eye candy, if you like, on the screen at the moment is just a few bits of graphical information that ClubLog shows you. We've got things like, you know, what QSO numbers per hour for a particular location on each band. Or we've got, you know, when was a particular DXCC entity last active on 15 CW? Or, you know, you can see on the screen. This data is for you, for DXing. And it's also very keenly used by the expedition planners, because they need to think about this when they're planning, you know, okay, if we're going to go to Christmas Island, okay, Steve, then are we going to do 160? Is that going to be the one that everybody needs? Are we going to make people happy doing 10 meters on FT8, which may never have been done before? So it's all there. It helps with the planning. And the third party there, of course, is sponsors who like to send the money where it's needed the most. And ClubLog is helping them to see that as well. So lots of visualizations. I hope you find them accessible and interesting to use. this is the motivation part. Now, look, we're all we're DXers, right? Or contesters, or both. We like to compete. We like to see how we're doing. So ClubLog is really built on that idea of league tables. And there are lots of league tables with many dimensions, again, all the permutations you could think of. So if you like, you can have a league table of the British Isles for the last 12 months. You could filter it by some bands, or you could change it to CW only, that kind of thing. And as long as people upload their logs, bearing in mind, this is why I said earlier, how important it is to get the DXCC mappings correct. If that's correct, then the data comes out truthfully, and we can represent these league tables. And I know that these are very, very keenly used. And one of the most interesting sort of developments that ClubLog made possible by bringing the data together in one place. On the right there, you see the expedition charts with a green tick for a slot that I managed to sneak off A25RU. Quite pleased with that. Not seen much of that lately. COVID's really put a stop to a lot of activities on the bands, but I know that we're going to see it come back. It's going to be great again. And of course, that has an element of really fierce competition, because you get up these leaderboards by being the first in the log. For longer term and more sort of year-round activities, CDXC, which is the UK DX Foundation, have got an LF challenge, an HF challenge, and an all-out sort of 12 months work as many DXCCs as you can challenge. And again, they're powered by ClubLog, so that they've got these charts to go with them. So what I really mean to say is, it might seem like it's really powerful and really useful, but it would be useless without the data. It really wouldn't make any sense to have all these charts empty. So if you've uploaded your log, I thank you, because you're the guys who've made it possible for us. And it really is what it's all about. It's a cooperation. Some people call it big data, but basically I'd like to sort of call it, presenting information in a central place. It's a very powerful thing that ClubLog can do. Okay, let me turn to something else that we've been up to, which is online QSL requests. Steve mentioned this too. These are the stats as of today. So OQRS, as it's known, well, ClubLog has confirmed just under 6 million QSOs now, and that was just under 2 million PayPal transactions. You can see the numbers there, right? So 4 million and plus a million of donations is quite a lot of money. I mean, actually, it's a staggering amount of money. And all of this has been money that was moved electronically. Admittedly, there is a handling fee on PayPal, but there was also a handling fee on sending envelopes and losing green stamps and powering aeroplanes to carry airmail around the world. So we've really made an impact there, and I'm proud of it. Marios 5B4WN put this code together, and we've really capitalized on it and helped expeditions to be efficient with QSLing with paper. And that includes the label printing and the envelope printing part of it. We've got tools that are built in. You may not have seen that yourself, but it's there for them. And so it really simplifies the whole sort of process of issuing these cards. So great numbers there that we're really pleased with. Needless to say, not everything is paper. We do also do electronic QSLing. So ClubLog's log matching feature gives you the ability to do essentially the same idea as LOTW. Of course, ClubLog isn't accepted by ARRL for DXCC purposes, but it is accepted for IOTA, for the Australian Wireless Institute, the DARC. They've all got awards which are powered by ClubLog. And these matches, of course, are free so that they can be effective, with the scale that they've got, they can operate the award schemes that they want to. So if you haven't tried it yet and you want to maybe get some IOTA matches, you might be surprised to find how much you've already got confirmed through ClubLog. Okay, real-time uploads. This is an interesting topic, and it's come up a lot recently, and I thought it'd be nice to show you a little bit more about how it actually works. You might, I hope, by now have seen this kind of interface. This is called a live stream. It's something that I launched back in 2019, and it's actually available to everyone. So in the past, we have occasionally had some really impressive technology demos by expeditions with DXA doing incredible things from remote places. And I thought this was inspiring. Actually, that's incredibly cool. And it's a feature that with the technology that we've got today, I could actually build into ClubLog. So I started to investigate it and built it. So we've got an open street map, we've got real-time feeds of QSOs appearing in the chart, and it rolls over automatically. You don't have to refresh anything. And you can see there, that's KP2B doing some real-time work and logging probably automatically from the computer. So how do you do that? Are you interested? Well, basically your logging software probably has it built in already. It's been a long time since we invented the user interfaces that make it possible. So most logging software has picked up on that and built it in. I've listed a few down there in a sort of rainbow of names. Surely some of them are familiar. Maybe you haven't heard of some of them, but they're all supporting ClubLog. So you can use them to connect your log up at any point. Here's an example of how you get that password I'm talking about. You might be wondering, oh, hang on a minute, I've always just used my password. What's this app password that looks so complicated? I get it. It's, you know, and don't feel obliged to change anything. But if you're setting this up for the first time and you use an app passwords, it's slightly better in terms of overall security. And I do care about that sort of thing. So I'm going to encourage you to do this. Pretty easy to get one. Settings, app passwords. You get one of those and copy it off the screen with your mouse. Right, so here's an example of DXKeeper, one of the very best DXing tools out there. And Dave's doing a talk this weekend, so look forward to that. But you go into the DXKeeper QSL configuration and there's a ClubLog tab. You just put your email address, the app password, your call sign, click the auto upload button, and you're done. Everything will go to ClubLog automatically as you work it. Maybe you use a Mac, I do. Then you've got RunLog, same thing, little ClubLog box, fill your details in. If you use Log4OM, no surprises, same idea, ClubLog, email address, password, call sign, tick a box, and you're done. And this is all you need to do to get the live streams going. I did some research because I lose track of this. There are loads of tools out there. I've used some of these and not all of them. So I just grabbed the screenshots I could find. But there are lots of other ways of doing it. They all achieve the same end, which is to get the QSOs to ClubLog in real time. Right, now I want to shock you by saying that it's not good enough. And it isn't good enough. I'll show you why. It's not quite perfect. So it is good because it's simple and it's very familiar to plug things into your own logs. So if you're at home in your shack, then this is pretty good. You've got broadband, right? So you're not going to have a problem getting online in real time. And it's quite fun because you get to use things like the live streams. But for certain other people, mainly the expeditions, it's not quite so good. If you change your QSO, you can't update it in ClubLog. You can't delete it either. Once it's in, and there's a problem there. We're using ADIF for the real-time uploads, which is a great invention for ham radio, but for real-time uploads, that's quite a lot of data. I'll come to why I think that might be a problem for some people. And the last one, again, is for people who've got multi operations. It's going to use UDP mostly on the network if you've got contest stations. And that's not really suitable when you're in a situation with marginal connectivity. Bit of a subtle one, but there's a reason for that being a problem. The first two are the ones to focus on. You can't edit, you can't delete. So what can we do about it? Well, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think those problems need solving for everybody. They're not really an issue if you're a DXer at home. After all, you can easily tidy up afterwards. But if you're an expedition, and these are a key audience for ClubLog, then I think it does matter. So let's look at an expedition. There she is, the brave heart. I sincerely hope she has a safe voyage on her next DXpedition. She's a wonderful thing, isn't she? Typically associated with tents and generators, going to somewhere really, really difficult. High budgets. You know, Bouvet is no easy target, and we've seen that very, very vividly. Lots and lots of money involved, multiple stations, certainly a lot more complex than anything that we're currently expecting to see in, you know, a normal contest station sometimes. One master log, that's the important thing because there's just one call sign on the air. And often the tools are things like DXlog, N1MM, WinTest as well. At least 50,000 QSOs operating round the clock, all bands. Quite a challenge. So they've got no broadband, obviously. But can you still do real-time uploads? Do you want to? Well, I think that you do want to. I think DXers want you to, because it's so useful. You need to know what band they're on, obviously. Which paths are open? That's something that ClubLog can help you visualize in real time. And also, quite importantly, am I in the log? You know, if I make the QSO and I hear this sort of slightly ambiguous exchange, am I in the log? Am I going to make an insurance QSO? I think it's better that you know that you're in the log. So real-time uploads have added a lot of excitement, and they're really popular, but they have to be reliable. If they're not reliable, it is a disaster, because it changes the behavior of all of the pileups in a really negative way. So bear in mind the problems of getting online from an island. We've really got to do something innovative here. And I put my mind to this and decided that it was time to write some new software. Satellite phones, basically, that's the answer. At the moment, there are two commercial platforms. We've got Inmarsat and we've got Iridium, very different in their approach, because Iridium uses a crossing network of low Earth orbiting satellites to provide internet coverage, whereas Inmarsat is geostationary. There are possibilities with Starlink, the new SpaceX system, but at the moment it's ring-fenced to the location you subscribe from, so you can't take it on a boat and take it to Bouvet. But these are your platforms for getting data from anywhere in the world at the moment. Now, as internet connections go, they're not business as usual in any shape or form. There's lots of things you can't do with a sat phone because they're slow. They're 2.4 kilobits. We're used to things that are 1,000 times faster than that. High latency as well, by the way, really long ping times. So you can't just turn a laptop on and connect it to the satellite link, because it will swamp it instantly with all the things that laptops like to do. So even accessing ClubLog's in a web browser is not actually a very viable thing to do. It's too much data and it takes too long. And if you're in the marginal areas, then you might only have a very short window with a satellite right at the horizon, with maybe 3 minutes of coverage before a handover. So how are you going to upload your logs? The way I've approached this is to write a new tool, which is called the real-time gateway. Sometimes I call it the satellite gateway, but actually it's the real-time gateway. It runs on Raspberry Pi, it runs on Linux, it runs on Windows, and it runs on macOS. And so in the little images on the right there, if you imagine that little steel box with the air cooling vents, that's actually a Raspberry Pi enclosure. And my idea is you go from your logging tools at the top, that's WinTest. You've got this box of tricks running the software that I've written, and then you go through to your satellite phone and off into ClubLog at the end. It works by listening to the protocols that tools like N1MM use. So it's snooping on the UDP data that they transmit to the network, and it gathers up the QSOs. Once it's got the QSOs, it also deals with deletions and edits. So it sort of unifies the correct version of the log on the Raspberry Pi. Once it's got the QSOs, then periodically, and it's lots of configuration options about how often and how many at a time, send them off into ClubLog via a special direct connection, not based on the web browser. And there's a nice little sweetener. It also provides local time synchronization for the network on your DXpedition, so that laptops that don't have any internet connection don't start drifting off. And that really matters if you've got FT8. So lots of reasons why it's sort of purpose-built for expedition users. Right, I'm going to do something that I sort of thought long and hard about, which is show you a slide that really doesn't belong in a presentation. I'm thinking about the people that are here today, and there's probably 10, maybe 15 of them that actually want to know something more about this. And I'm going to put it on the screen, and I'm not going to talk about it. Basically, if you're really interested in what the satellite gateway actually does, then take a screenshot. Now's your chance, and then get in touch with me, because I think there's too much technology involved to just sort of wade through in a nice, inclusive talk about DXing. So there it is. If you haven't got your screenshot yet, I'm going to give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. There we go. So it works. I don't mean to turn it into a technical problem. I think it is a technical problem at its heart. You do need to know a little bit about telecoms to understand why that's not business as usual for ham radio. That using a sat link is a very significant change of tack. And hopefully, if you're doing an expedition and it's an important one, or even if you're just interested in why this would be possible, then go for it. Get in touch with me, and it's all ready to go. And it works really nicely. I tried it at ZC4UW, and we had a great time with it. And at the end, I realized that I wasn't going to have to download an ADIF and go around every laptop and get them all in one place and think about what was different. It was actually already correct, which is really nice and a bit refreshing. Okay, back to the other story, which is how you use ClubLog to work with DX. So I've got a few things that I wanted to sort of show you here. One of them I think you will have seen, and I just wanted to make sure that I had a chance to talk to you about what it does, because I feel like it maybe is underused or perhaps not fully understood by everybody, and it would be useful to take this opportunity to sort of show you it. And that tool is the Geo-propagation tool, which you'll see only in the expedition charts on ClubLog. So it's a tool which allows you to see activity from the expedition by band and time, which we're familiar with, but it also breaks it down by geography, like where are the QSOs. So you point and click on a map in order to figure out where they're going to be most likely to work in the next sort of half hour or whatever, and you choose your battles. So it's actually ideal if the expedition's working in real time as well, because it all fits together. You know, the live stream's on, you see the map filling up with pins, but you also have this data. So here's what it does. First of all, how do you operate it and where do you find it? Again, just for expeditions, you find the expedition you're interested in and then look for the tab that says Geo-propagation at the top. When you click that, then you'll get taken to a screen which is laid out as a long scrolling list of things. It starts with this map at the top. First thing to know is that the DX is in the middle of the map, and that the things that are lit up and colored are for the current time. So when you load it, it's already syncing to what's going on now. And we use a heat map to show the relative levels of activity. So the hotter colors have got more QSOs happening or more likely to happen, because what we've done is merge all the data about this time of day from the log up to now. So it might have been that they've been operating for a few days, and that's filling in some of the data for you. If you click on a location on the map, and I think the obvious thing to do is click your own location, then it will give you a graph of what's going on in your location. And that means the number of QSOs at this particular moment in time, but also by band. And if they're on several bands, you might see that one of them is peaking, and that might be a reason to QSY basically and get there and work them. So click the map for your own location. The other thing you can do, which is underneath the world map, is you can actually take a contrarian sort of approach and say, well, actually, I want to know when would be the best time to work them on 40 meters. And these charts obviously give you the time of day breakdowns as well. So, you can click on these things. They're interactive. I think this is perhaps the thing that gets missed. Click on things and the data changes to suit the time of day, the band, the location. 3 factors, right? That's the important thing. Now, there is this sort of long scrolling list of graphs per band as well. And the question you need to sort of ask if you're interested in the geo-propagation is, but where, right? So, but where? If I say that it's a peak time for 15 meters, it's the obvious question to ask, but where? Because it might all be JA. And if you're in North America, then that's not going to excite you quite as much. So, and there's an example of that. You've got Japan lit up red hot. It's obviously fully open to Japan, and it's only marginally open to the US. And I think there's another tip there for a DX to sort of change tack at that point and try something else, go to another band. So that's what they do. And I feel like that's all I have to say about the geo-propagation tools, but I hope you'll get onto using them next time a big expedition settles in and starts lighting up the bands for us. And if they're using ClubLog, it's all going to be there populated for your enjoyment. Okay, next topic then, I guess, on my little whirlwind tour of what's going on. Satellite DXCC. Right, so ClubLog for all of the time it's existed has been about HF DXing. It hasn't been about other things, VHF or satellites or anything else of that sort. It's always been about HF and DXCC. New for this year, as of about sort of 2 or 3 weeks ago now, ClubLog does support satellite DXCC. One of the motivations for this is this incredible new satellite, the QO100 SHALE, as launched by the Qataris, which is an extraordinary thing because it's geostationary. Unfortunately, it's not geostationary over North America. And if you're watching with envious eyes as the Europeans crack on and work so much more DX with it, well, let's hope that more are going to come. But it really has revolutionized the satellite situation for Europe and Africa and the Middle East. So, and that's the motivation really to add satellite DXCC to ClubLog. We recognize all the satellites through history. There's 78 of them in total. Low Earth, highly eccentric and geostationary. And of course, it's a completely different style of reporting now. We need to change from what you're used to something a bit more like this. Across the top there, you've got the satellite names, and obviously then we've got countries, and each satellite is considered to be a slot. And then you've got the usual color scheme for ClubLog of worked, confirmed, and awarded, verified, which links in with LOTW correctly. So that's your sort of personal view of your satellite contacts. And you can filter it in lots of ways, of course, filter out just the low Earth orbit stuff and that kind of thing. And then, of course, we build the league tables because it's ClubLog, right? So you've got to be able to filter it into some sort of ranked league table. And we do that, as usual, by locations like continents or by clubs. And you can filter it by times like years or the last 12 months. Ranking this league for low Earth orbits probably makes most sense for the guys in the US here today, because then, of course, you're only seeing things which you could have a chance of working at least. So it's all live. I'm calling it a beta test at the moment because I'm not personally a satellite op, and I worry that I might have missed something. But I think it's going okay. People seem to be excited about it. And if you're a satellite operator, just a reminder, you do need to upload your log in its entirety from scratch in order for me to catch the things that previously we weren't collecting. More plans for this too. I want to give some credit here. I think K4AL did this fantastic, almost unimaginable job of writing a spreadsheet that can track grid squares. When I saw it, I nearly fell off my chair. To use Excel in that way is amazing to me. I'm planning on implementing something like this, but worldwide, using OpenStreetMaps to put squares onto a world map. And then I'll fill it in with the same colors, in fact, that you see there. Those the same ones that we use in ClubLog. So I think that might help VHF users as well. 6 meters, that kind of thing. So that's all coming soon. Now then, I have to say that with all of that out of the way, ClubLog has really thrived on the involvement of users. And as I looked at it the other day for the first time in a while and just toured through all of the functionality, I realized that actually doing a talk like this is really problematic, because basically what you've got here is a talking head telling you about technology, telling you about features in a piece of software. And I think that I decided that really I wanted to make the most of the Q&A format for ClubLog, because I think that there's a great deal to be had from listening to what you've been doing with it, knowing what the gaps are and what you would like to see. So I just want to give you a heads up here that I'm not going to talk to you endlessly about features. I've covered some things that I'm really interested in knowing what you think, particularly the new stuff with satellites and obviously the real-time gateway are very important things. And I would love to hear, particularly from expedition teams who think that they might be keen to take on more interactions with ClubLog in that way. But I'm not going to talk to you for 8 hours. John would never let me anyway, but I don't think that that's the way to go. What I do want to do is make some very, very important thank yous, because there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on with ClubLog that does need to be called out for reasons that will become obvious. And I'd like to ask you to start thinking of some questions, because I'm going to use a lot of the time from today to deal with it in a sort of forum format, and hopefully you'll come on the microphone, tell me who you are and your call sign, and I know that we're going to have some help there from John and Rich to do that, and then I'll do my best to deal with your questions. Someone says, "You're doing an Ask Me Anything. That's crazy. You'll run out of well, basically you'll get skewered." And I figured I know you all well enough. I certainly know the audience that we have here today, and I think that you might have some good questions to ask. So we'll try it. Now then, so how is this all possible? This slide really has to be something I want to focus you on, because you might think, well, ClubLog seems to just exist and it's remarkable and it's free and you can just do all these things. And some of them are obviously not simple things. We're dealing with a huge database. And back in 2019, basically we ran into lots of problems with the existing hardware, which itself had been in actual use for about 5 years, 6 years or so. And I needed to raise some help. And I was worried about it, frankly, because even though we have a fantastic level of donation support for ClubLog, I actually needed to do a capital spend, and it was over $10,000. So NCDXF just, I sent off an email saying, guys, I'm thinking about buying some new hardware. I need some help with it. And like a day later, this is like, yeah, no problem. Here you go. Can you imagine how that feels when you've been worrying about something and someone just says, it's not a problem, here you go. And I had the same experience with Yasme and the same experience with CDXC, and also with the IDXF. Everybody was willing to help, and it just took all the weight off my shoulders, and we did it. And it's been amazing ever since. Things like the live streams are only possible because of this. So thanks for the money. Thanks for making it feel better to run ClubLog when there was a bit of a difficulty about the hardware, and thanks for making it all sort of seem so easy when really it can't be that simple, right? It can't be that simple, but it was. So amazing stuff. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the donations too. You're covering the costs of quite a lot of computing resource, bandwidth, cloud services that are used in backups. Basically, it's an incredible voluntary thing that you do. No one has to pay for it. There are lots of people who don't have the means to do that, but those who do donate, kind of it does stun me sometimes how generous you are, and never forgotten. So thanks very much for all of it. The other people that need to be called out here are these guys. So from left to right, Alan, who I mentioned earlier, is doing all this database research. It's really quite a full-time thing for him. I call him a DX historian as well, but Alan's hobby is to research the history of amateur radio and then to input it into ClubLog. And it makes such a difference to everything that I don't know how we would sort of function without it, really. So massive tip of the hat to Alan. He's been a good friend to me and a good friend to ClubLog for a very long time. Marios 5B4WN, also known as Charlie 4 Whiskey. If you work him in a contest, you'll hear this strong contest sound from Charlie 4 Whiskey. And Marios is a great contester and also really motivated by the hobby. And so he does extraordinary things with software. And he's innovated endlessly around ClubLog. Propagation tools, the expedition charts, OQRS, all sort of start with Marios. He's also done the QSL archive, which you might have tried. And he's experimented with other things at the moment, which are to do with digital voice keying, where ClubLog can synthesize things for you. So lots and lots of interesting projects have started with Marios, a real innovator. And then if you've spoken to our help desk, actually on the help desk, let's just think about it. We've got 85,000 people. If you all ask a question now and then, it soon mounts up, right? I worked out that if you ask one question each every 10 years, we still have 10 emails every day. And Dick and Joe are both there for you alongside me and the others. And they're incredibly helpful people. We're patient in a way that I think is really important with software. So if you're doing software and you're doing it for free, you need the kind of volunteer mentality, which is kind and patient. And these guys are amazing for that. And Joe in particular is an expert on LOTW as well, which is one of the hot topics that comes up most of all in a help desk. So to these 4 people, a massive thank you. And, and that last point there about the community is that everybody here today, and this audience really exemplifies it, the DXing audience, the serious DXing audience, the expedition teams, you've all treated ClubLog as yours, as part of what we do in our hobby. And it couldn't be a better arrangement. It really couldn't work better for me and for everybody else. So you've been our community. You've made us do these things for you, if you like. And we're incredibly grateful. So thanks for everything. Okay, so I hope you've had your questions up your sleeve for a little while now. Let's go to the Q&A time. Ask me anything. And hopefully John or Rich is going to help me out and filter out the questions or something, or I don't know.
Yes, we're going to do that. Let me quote Peter Arninge. Sugar Mike 5 Golf Mike Zulu says, this is a fantastic presentation of a fantastic tool for all of us. ClubLog has made our wonderful hobby much more fun. Thank you. He also says that you have such a great English dialect that you sound like a young Roger Moore. So there's a high compliment.
I couldn't possibly. That's such a nice comment. Thanks very much for that.
From Peter. First question from Stephen, Kilo Golf 5 Victor Kilo. I love ClubLog and I've been using it for over a decade. My one request is I would love to be able to filter the ClubLog DX cluster spots to those from my area or zone versus getting global spots. Maybe this feature is already there and I'm missing how to utilize it. Michael, thanks for an awesome product. Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It's nice to hear from you. We're often in communication via email. Yeah, so that feature is one that I'm quite interested in. And I think that the answer to all of the DX cluster stuff is to take a more real-time approach to that as well. For a long time, I worried about the impact it might have if ClubLog was to become a global DX cluster with real-time filtering for each user. If you imagine the impact on the databases and the filtering that's needed to do that is quite advanced. I'm hoping to team up with Tobias who's the creator of DX Heat. DX Heat is a really cool DX cluster interface, and it's a really successful product in its own right. If you haven't tried it, then really I'd recommend that. And what we're going to hopefully do is team up, because ClubLog can provide the data about what to filter, and he can provide this amazing front end to the DX cluster. So I think there'll be a partnership coming there. Tobias said he would do it, but I know he's got new young family as well at the moment, so I've given him loads of slack. But I'll keep badgering him for you, Steve.
Okay, very good.
I might add that many of the larger DX cluster hosts around the world already provide filtering based on what country, even down to what state or what section they come from. VE7CC has that capability, and so it may not be necessary to replicate that because it already exists.
Yep. I think VE7CC is one of the great innovations that I would call out and say that is a good answer. It does so many things, but ClubLog can always do more. It's quite fun to try.
We have an anonymous attendee asking this question: what backend is ClubLog using? For example, what database system, how many servers, and how do you scale it to the growing demand?
Cool. Okay, that's quite an interesting question. I'm going to keep the answer short, but to the anonymous person, write to me, because I've got a presentation about that for geeks, right? So how do we partition data and all the rest of it? It's Linux. It's MySQL. Actually, it's MariaDB. I use a lot of denormalized partitioning to do the queries. So I've sort of turned it into a column database in lots of ways. The fast bits are written in Go, and the front end is written in PHP. It replicates to a backup server, which is a clone of the primary, and also to an instance in Google Cloud. And I spread certain back-end processing around through those. And there's lots to talk about, right? So it's nothing special. There's no innovative new row database or something like that. It is just a relational database with lots of cunning stuff done to make it not lock up.
All right. Mel Ming asked the question, can you tell us more about the integration of ClubLog and Logbook of the World?
Sure. Yeah. So ClubLog is a trusted partner for the LOTW program. And that means that if we want to, we can sign QSOs and upload them directly to LOTW for you. So when you use the LOTW tool, the LOTW sync tool in ClubLog, your certificates can actually be stored in ClubLog to do the signing. That bit is essentially another way of queuing things up that is equivalent to using the TQSL app on your own computer. The upside of that is that it's quite a nice way for expeditions to operate because it can give more than a few people control over the account. So lots of people are in the position to sign things. And it also has some filters on it, which are quite handy for only sending things selectively, which some people do demand to do. So for example, only sending things that have been paid for with an OQRS transaction. I make no judgment on whether that's right or wrong, by the way, but it is something that ClubLog can do that TQSL can't do. On the inbound side, so getting your matches from LOTW, what we do is we call the ARRL server with a query on your behalf, and we collect the report ADIF that you could have downloaded yourself, but we do it directly and we queue it through into the ClubLog's queues, uploading it, and then we merge the QSL statuses as we go through it. One notable weak spot in that is that we can only get things out of LOTW that are actually there and fully stored with dates and times. And the pre-computer era of the DXCC award meant that a lot of QSL cards don't have their dates and times stored in it. They just have a call sign and that it's confirmed. So sometimes the sync isn't perfect for the older logs, the more experienced DXs, and that's something to watch out for.
Next question is from Tim Geppiger, asks, is the ClubLog data available for university studies on propagation or groups like HAMSci?
Yes, it certainly is. Once it's been anonymized, all the data is available. And I actually publish a regular monthly dump of a lot of the key things that I've been asked for over the years. So yeah, it absolutely is. That's part of the sort of credo of ClubLog. Share it all. If you've got something interesting on it, I've been in touch with a few people who are doing academic research of late, and you just need to tell me what you need, really. Be delighted to support you.
Very good. John Warburton asked the question, have you thought about integrating ClubLog with the reverse beacon network to give more real-time visualization of propagation? And thanks for the great presentation, he says. That's G4IRN, a good friend of yours, probably.
He is, yeah. He's a talented CW operator. We've had some good expeditions together, including XR0YG, Easter Island. It was good fun. Hi, John. Good question. So the RBN is a very interesting problem because it produces millions of records every day. For a while, I stored them all and soon realized that that wasn't going to be viable. So at the moment, I'm recycling them over 24 hours and bin them. So it's like a window. And that kind of sort of limits the reporting power that I might be able to use on it. What I want to do is to reconcile the trends of each day in a sort of consolidated version of that, and then move on to the next day and gather more data. We already do some things with it for propagation in contests. Marios has been experimenting with RBNs for contests only. And basically, yeah, it's like a big 10 times multiplier on how hard it is to do the queries quickly, but it is interesting. And obviously it generates really interesting propagation patterns that you can't see otherwise. So yeah, I am interested in that.
Interesting question here from Deepak, Victor United 2 Charlie Delta Papa says, hi, Michael, have you considered creating something along the lines of GDXF's Mega DXpeditions Honor Roll that compares QSO totals and rates with the amount of expedition data already at hand with ClubLog? It could be another useful tool while planning for the next expedition to a specific entity.
Well, hi, Deepak. What a well-known call sign to hear from. It's nice to have a question from you. At the moment, I'm analysing all of the expedition logs for uniques. So they've been ranked into a uniques leaderboard. T32C is at the top at the moment, and it's going to take some doing to dislodge. But basically, it's one cut of that idea. So other things are like, QSOs per operator per day, peak rate, that sort of thing. Actually, more analysis of that is relatively easy, and probably I ought to get on and do it, because I think that the idea of ranking expeditions is quite fun. And certainly we've all got it in mind. We've all got our favorites. I think my all-time favorite is VP6DX. I can't imagine anyone doing a better job than they did. And yet you could see that in the numbers somehow if we could analyze it. So yeah, I like that. And it's a nice reminder to go off and do a bit more thinking about it.
Jeff Mendenhall says, I'm very protective of access to my logbook of the world account and logbook. I have not yet allowed ClubLog to access my LOTW account. I would prefer to continue to manage my uploads to logbook of the world, but would like ClubLog logbook to automatically sync to my logbook DXCC confirmations. Please talk about my options.
Cool. Okay. So, I mean, first of all, I totally respect your point of view on that. And I can understand that point of view very much. One of the things about the Trusted Partner Program is that ARRL thought about it from that point of view as well. And so actually, when we store your certificates, we can't use them unless it's you at the keyboard. The reason that we can't use them is because they have to be unlocked by a cryptographic key which you hold. If you look in ClubLog, you'll see that you actually do have to unlock it each time. And we're not allowed to store that password. Okay, so we can't unencrypt your keys unless you're there. We made it a bit more efficient by storing it in a cookie so that your browser can sort of vouch for you, but we can't do it. We don't have it ourselves. So hopefully that would sort of take the heat off ClubLog a little bit as a trustworthy place to leave your keys, because ARRL Trusted Partner Program really does enforce a lot around that. In terms of syncing it automatically, the reason we can't do it is because ARRL's Trusted Partner Program prevents that as well, for the same reasons. So on the one hand, we can give and take away with the same problem about privacy, unfortunately.
Okay, Mike Ricketts asks, are you still devoting server resources to the Folding at Home project? I'm not sure what that is, but perhaps you do.
Yep, no, not anymore. And the reason was that it was clear that the solution to the protein folding problem would come from AI. And I think that the amount of energy that was being devoted to it was quite significant. And my personal feeling was that perhaps ClubLog without graphics processing units on hand wasn't making a contribution that would be as useful as saving energy. Those people who are in the ClubLog project with GPUs have made an unbelievable impact, though, because they're, of course, hundreds of times more efficient at doing the work. So it was a combination of factors that I eventually decided not to carry on with it.
Okay, David Perry says, great presentation, an invaluable DXing tool. I have over 200,000 QSOs in ClubLog. When uploading, wow. when uploading, how often do you recommend clearing the log versus the recommended merge log? I normally merge, and thus my confirmations are not up to date. Thank you, Dave, and for Quebec Sugar.
And Michael, yeah, I'll second that question because okay. I have the exact. The problem is you get a confirmation from a QSO from years ago, but unless you upload the entire log, it's never going to show up in ClubLog.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so first of all, don't worry too much about this. It might seem like 200,000 QSOs is a lot. I mean, it's not an imaginable number of QSOs to me, but for the computer, it's not really. So upload it as often as you like if you want to get confirmations flushed through. And don't worry too much about trying to filter out what you think has changed. But overall, it is a kindness to the other users of ClubLog if you only upload new stuff. So it's all merge, really. It's a question of what you upload. In extremis, you might clear your log in ClubLog and then upload the entire thing again. And I think that one is the one that I would prefer people only did if they had a really good reason to. On the QSL merges, I'm currently working through some investigations around how to make that more efficient, because I think that there are some things we can do with ADIF files that I could probably improve on. But long and short of it is, don't worry about consuming resource. It's all there to be used.
Well, you're doing great on these questions. Grant Willis, Victor Kilo 5 Golf Romeo, has a question for you about networking. He said he's been on several DXpeditions. Michael, one of the problems we encountered on Alpha 35 Japan Tango was when we lost our internet feed, we found that a lot of people would suddenly start QSOing us, often within minutes. The live stream could perhaps use some sort of connection OK or connection down indication. If you had a request like this from other DXpeditions, thanks for your fantastic service.
Thanks, Grant. Yeah, nice job on the expedition as well. It was fun. I think the thing with the heartbeat is that at the moment we're showing you a heartbeat about whether or not you're connected to ClubLog when you're watching the live stream. If we were to implement a heartbeat for the expedition side, then for the satellite users that would be problematic because it almost implies continuous connectivity. And some of the satellite plans charge by minutes rather than by bytes. So I resisted it because I felt like it might be quite an expensive thing to implement for them. On the other hand, if someone's got a broadband connection where they are, then that changes the story completely. And so I think what I want to do is make it an option. And the expedition can then say, you know, sort of double checkbox on this. Are you sure you're going to be able to do this? But basically, if you click this box, you're saying that you will continuously tell ClubLog you are there. And if that stops, then we'll say you're offline and close the live stream down. So it's a very different kind of behavior for the live stream. So that's less passive. And I do think that's a very strong suggestion.
Okay, we're coming down to the wire. We got two more questions.
Well, we've also got some questions coming in on the chat line. Let me give you one from Rusty W60AT, who is well known to almost everybody. He asks, how much does it cost to operate ClubLog, and how much do you receive in donations, and does that cover it?
It does. Thankfully, it does. Yeah, the main costs, the hard money, if you like, goes on cloud computing services, bandwidth, power, air conditioning stuff for the hardware. They're all in good data centers. So none of this is shoestring anymore. And that's been because, of course, the importance of it's gone up and up and up. So, Rusty, your question is leading and generous. I know where you're coming from, but it's actually just about level pegging, and we're all good. The only time I've run into problems with finances in the entire history of ClubLog was replacing the hardware in 2019. And as I was at pains to point out, that problem was solved overnight by some really cool people. So yeah, it's all good. Michael,
it's 9:55 our time, and there's more questions. What I'm going to do after the convention, I'll get a printout of all the chat questions and from Q&A and chat, and I'm going to send them to you. You'll have a chance to respond to individuals at that point. Right now we need to say, bravo, fantastic presentation, fantastic service. I'm going to steal the sharing here because I have one slide that I want to show. And one of the things that's interesting about Michael is he's a very talented guy. Not only does he do what you just heard, basically 24 hours a day, there's another side of Michael. I happen to be on your Twitter feed, Michael, and I noticed that this guy is a very gifted craftsman. He's restored a beautiful clock. I wish we had another half hour to talk about that. But also anybody that is associated with ClubLog has to have a club dog, right, Michael?
Yeah, do you want to see her? She's right here.
Oh no, I've got it. Well, I've got a picture of it.
Oh, there she is. Yeah,
if you've got the real thing, do you want us to introduce us to Ella?
Actually, she looks like she's asleep, to be honest.
She fell asleep during your presentation. Well, you need to give her a treat. I just think it's a great her great nickname, the club dog from ClubLog, is fantastic. All right, we're going to thank you and your continued good work. You do a fantastic job, and I love your energy. So applause for Michael. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. Really, I've had so much fun preparing this, getting ready for it. I enjoy the rest of this convention, and brilliant to be able to be part of it. Cheers, everybody. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So now I'm going to take just a slight break.